Let me guess. You're doing fine. Not amazing, not terrible, just fine. You pay your bills, you go to work, you tell yourself you're being responsible, but deep down, there's this quiet thought you try not to think too hard about. How am I ever supposed to retire? Because retirement feels like something reserved for people who started early, or people who make way more money than you, or people who somehow figured it out. And if you're being honest, you probably feel behind. You might even feel like you already missed your chance. Here's the thing. That feeling is incredibly common, and it's also wrong. Most people don't fail to retire early because they start too late. They fail because they never believe it's possible enough to try. And if you've ever thought, there's no way I could retire in 10 years starting from zero, this video is for you. My name is Brian, and I probably think about money, investing, and financial independence more than I should. And if you're someone who feels overwhelmed by retirement, unsure where to start, or worried that you're running out of time, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, I want to show you how retiring in 10 years is possible. Not easy, not effortless, but absolutely realistic. And we're going to do it without hype, without scams, and without pretending everyone can become a millionaire overnight. Let's start by clearing up the biggest misunderstanding about retirement. Retirement is not an age. It's not 60, it's not 65, it's not whenever the government says you're allowed to stop working. Retirement is a math problem. Specifically, it's the point where your investments can pay your living expenses indefinitely. That's it. If your expenses are covered without you needing to work, you're retired. You might still work, but you don't have to. And that difference changes everything. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't need millions of dollars to retire early. You need a lifestyle that doesn't require millions. There's a common guideline in personal finance called the 4% rule. It says that if you withdraw roughly 4% of your investment portfolio each year, adjusted for inflation, your money has a high probability of lasting decades. So let's make this concrete. If you need $40,000 per year to live, you need about $1 million invested. If you need $30,000 per year, you need about $750,000. If you need $50,000 per year, you need about $1.25 million. Notice something important. The number depends far more on how much you spend than how much you earn. And this is where most people get stuck. They assume their current lifestyle is non-negotiable. But lifestyle is flexible, especially when you're buying freedom. Now, let's talk about starting from zero, because that's where this feels impossible. When you're at zero, the gap looks massive, but the distance doesn't matter nearly as much as the direction and speed. Let's use a realistic example. Say you're 30 years old. You earn $60,000 per year, and right now you're saving nothing. This is where most people say, I'll save whatever's left at the end of the month, which usually means nothing, because spending expands to fill income. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the biggest reasons people stay broke at higher incomes. So instead, you flip the system. You pay yourself first. Let's say you aggressively save 40% of your income. Yes, that sounds intense, but retiring in 10 years is intense. 40% of $60,000 is $24,000 per year. That leaves you $36,000 to live on. Is that comfortable for everyone? No. Is it possible for many people? Yes. Especially if you remove the biggest wealth killers: car payments, overpriced rent, lifestyle debt, subscriptions you barely notice. Now let's run the numbers. If you invest $24,000 per year for 10 years at a 7% real return, you end up with about $340,000 to $370,000. And remember earlier when we talked about lowering expenses? If you're living on $30,000 to $35,000 per year, you're suddenly very close to financial independence. And we're still missing one critical concept: momentum. The first $100,000 is brutally hard. Charlie Munger famously said, "The first 100,000 is a bitch," because before that point, progress feels invisible. But after that, compounding starts doing the heavy lifting. Once your investments reach critical mass, your money begins growing faster than your contributions. This is why people underestimate what's possible in 10 years. They think linearly, but money grows exponentially. Now let's talk about psychology, because the math is simple, the behavior is not. Most people view saving as sacrifice. They see it as giving something up, but that's the wrong frame. Saving is buying freedom. Every dollar you save is an employee you're hiring to work for you forever. And the more employees you have, the less you have to work. But here's the problem. Delayed rewards are psychologically hard. Your brain is wired for now, not later. That's why emergencies derail plans. That's why people quit during market downturns. That's why consistency matters more than perfection. This is why step one is always an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. In cash, boring, unexciting, non-negotiable. Because fear destroys plans. Stability protects them. Now let's address another fear. What if the market crashes? Here's the truth. Market crashes are bad for retirees withdrawing money. They are amazing for people still accumulating. Crashes are discounts on future income. Historically, markets have recovered from every downturn. The people who fail are the ones who panic. And panic is not a financial problem. It's a psychological one. Now let's talk about spending. Retiring in 10 years does not mean living miserably. It means spending intentionally. You cut aggressively where you don't care, and you spend freely where you do. This is called value-based spending. You don't cut coffee because someone on the internet told you to. You cut the things that don't actually improve your life. And here's a powerful exercise. Track your spending once. Not forever, once. Most people are shocked by what they find. Subscriptions, convenience fees, impulse upgrades. Each one feels harmless. Together, they steal years of freedom. Now let's zoom out. Retiring in 10 years from zero requires 3 things: a high savings rate, rising income, and long-term investing. Miss one, and the timeline stretches. Do all 3, and the timeline collapses. And here's the hardest part: identity. You have to become the kind of person who delays gratification, who doesn't keep up appearances, who is willing to look behind temporarily to get ahead permanently. That's uncomfortable, but discomfort fades. Freedom compounds. If you're watching this and thinking, "I wish I had started earlier," remember this: the best time to start was years ago. The second best time is today. You don't need perfection, you need consistency. And if you start now, 10 years from now, your life can look unrecognizable. If this video helped reframe how you think about retirement, subscribe for more content on money, psychology, and financial independence. Share this with someone who thinks early retirement is impossible. And remember, retirement isn't about stopping work, it's about choosing it. I'll see you in the next one.